Vagus nerve?
Yeah, vagus nerve.
The hell's the vagus nerve?
So we're going to tell everybody what the vagus nerve is and what it does and how it can impact our health for the positive and the negative, and lots of really cool stuff about the vagus nerve.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really cool, everyone thinks a nerve is this little tiny thing. This is a whopper.
This is a big one. So it is the 10th cranial nerve, and there are actually 2 branches to the nerve. So people think it's one branch, but it actually splits off and goes down either side of the neck. And it innervates most of the organs in our body. So, our lungs, our heart, our kidneys, our pancreas, our liver, our small intestine, our uterus, everything. And that basically sends... It's like a bidirectional pathway where it sends signals back and forth from the brain, from the organs to the brain. So basically tells the brain what's going on in the body, and then allows the body to sort of turn off functions or turn on functions depending on what's actually going on. So it's super important. It's part of the autonomic nervous system.
Yep.
So we have two arms. So we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Yep. So it's the primary part of the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah.
And the sympathetic nervous system occurs when you're stressed.
That's right.
So think of it like a seesaw. When one's up, the other's down.
Yes.
So what we find in society, and we just talked about this earlier, about your clients, and would you safe to say that 80% have excessive stress?
Yes, I would
maybe
say.
90. Maybe 90. Probably 80 to 90. And with this excessive stress, it means the vagus nerve is compromised in some way.
Yes. So when we've talked about stress and gut health so many times, and how stress impacts our ability to produce acids and enzymes, and which then can lead on to dysbiosis if it's more chronic. And this is the reason why. So stress will shut down vagus nerve stimulation or activity. So then you're losing that messenger, that ability for that nerve to then switch on, because it is responsible for switching on the acids and the enzymes and the messages that switch them on. So if you're stressed and it's not working, then you're not going to have those secretions, and then you're going to can end up with dysbiosis, and that leads on to different things. So the vagus nerve, it's always monitoring the microbiome. So it's not actually sitting in the microbiome; it sits around, in the barriers, but it's getting the messages from our microbes, and we've talked about that in the past. They will give off messages, and these messages are then relayed back up to the brain. So that whole neurotransmitters are 90% of them are produced in the gut. So they're produced in the gut, and then the messenger is sent up to the brain. So the little bacteria doesn't climb up the nerve, but the message is sent up and down saying, hey, we need to produce more dopamine, or we need to produce more serotonin, and that type of thing. So it's always sort of monitoring what's going on in the microbiome. And there's a lot of research now showing that it can, depending on what's going on in the gut, if there's a pathogen, it can change the microbiome so that it can help to neutralise the pathogen. Yeah. So it's that intelligent. So when we're going to refer to low vagal tone. Yep. So that basically means that the vagus nerve isn't working as effectively as it should be. Yeah. It's not being stimulated the way that it should be and switched on. So some of the other conditions that have been linked to low vagal tone is chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, which sort of go together, depression, anxiety. Absolutely. Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Yep. Heart disease, diabetes, migraines, cluster headaches, PTSD, autoimmune conditions, obesity, cancer, ADHD, chronic inflammatory states. Wow. IBD, IBS, SIBO, leaky gut. All the gut stuff. Asthma. Incredible, isn't it? A lot of things, yeah. So which ones aren't? Well, that's it. That's probably more we should have listed that. But how do you know if your vagal tone or your vagal messages are low? Is there any way you can, what are some of the symptoms of that? Yeah. So some of the things that you may experience, so difficulty speaking or loss of voice. What else? Hoarse or wheezy voice. Yep. So because obviously it controls throat and voice, so those sort of issues. Trouble drinking liquids, or trouble drinking or swallowing. It's really interesting, and I do a lot of gut testing in clinic, and most of the time you get something back in the test, but sometimes you don't. Everything looks fine, looks great and balanced, and it doesn't match with their symptoms. So that's when you'd be doing something about looking at vagal tone. Is that having an impact? So, say somebody's getting bloating when they're eating a certain food, but their gut microbiome looks fine. Is that then the vagus nerve sending a signal? Or not sending a signal because they're highly stressed. So that's creating a lot of those sensitivities. So that's a really interesting thing to look at, to look further into that.
Improve
how
the
do we
vagus
actually
nerve.
improve the vagus nerve? So what can we do?
Oh, my goodness. Well, of course, there's electrical stimulation in the ear.
There is electrical, and there's,
But let's say you don't want to get a shock in the earlobe.
No.
Well, it's not the earlobe, it's the inner part of the ear.
Because it innervates into the inside of the ear as well. So
You're not going to like some of these.
no.
The first one I hate.
No,
But, the first one is extreme cold exposure.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. And this is different to ice baths.
Yes.
So that's different. So that one actually activate the vagal nerve.
Mm-hmm.
It causes your heart rate to go up and that sort of thing. So they call it the mammalian diver's reflex, Steve.
No, jeez. Okay, mammalian, we're mammals.
Yeah.
Diver's reflexes when you go underwater,
Yeah, so you have to submerge your face.
Mm-hmm.
So to activate that vagal tone. So getting in an ice bath, people get into up to their neck.
Yep.
It's not going to activate the vagal tone. So you have to actually submerge your face. So you get a bucket or a basin with cold water in it, and then holding your breath is another way. So you're doing two things at once. So you're holding your breath, you're submerging your face. Usually they say up to your ears. So you get your ears in. And that's a really good way of stimulating that vagus nerve.
So this is a bit of an easier one. It's deep and slow breathing. So,
And how often do we talk about breathing exercises? I tell my patients all the time.
Yeah.
Breathing, deep breathing. Deep breathing is so good for activating that vagal nerve.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really cool.
Can I give you number 3?
Yeah.
And I'm going to act it out. Bright light said he's going to set my soul. He's going singing,
yeah.
or humming, or chanting, or gargling.
Yeah, gargling. So gargling is, but you got to. This sounds funny, but you got to do it really hard.
Yeah.
You got to really put force into the gargling or the singing or the humming to really get that vibration, and they say that works more for anyone that has sort of that throat issue, so the swallowing issue, hoarse voice, croaky voice, that sort of thing can work really well for that. So anything that's sort of vibrating the throat. So if you're in a stress state and you've got these stresses around you, and like you said, you can't just avoid the stress. The stress is happening. If you can calm your nervous system and get out of that sympathetic dominance and get back into that parasympathetic calming, you're more clear-headed and you're more able to deal with the stress and rectify it.
Correct.
Rather than being stuck in it and not being able to do anything. So
That's
people say,
really good point.
The stress is there, I can't do anything about it. Well, you can, because if you can get yourself centered and calm again, you'll have the more ability to actually fix the issue. So it's super important.
And it's quite amazing. You're going to love this. Exercise.
Oh, wow, there you go. It's a cure-all, isn't it?
Exercise, they recommend lifting heavy weights 1 to 4 times per week, high-intensity interval sprinting 1 to 2 times a week, and walk as much as 30 to 60 minutes a day. If you do all 3 things, but if you can, good, all more power to you. And that will help with your vagus nerve. Oh, many other things, of course, heart shit and diabetes shit and cancer shit. But isn't that remarkable that good old exercise does that? So, we're starting to have a bit of a pattern here of good health. And you're going to love this.
Okay.
Your vagus nerve must be kicking ass at the moment.
Yeah.
Because it says socialising or laughing.
Oh, there you go. See, I should be super relaxing. But yeah, interesting. I just find that the vagus nerve is involved in so much of this stuff, and we've sort of shown with the gut, the brain, all of that sort of thing, that connection. So looking at vagal tone, work on some vagus nerve exercises to improve your vagal tone could really be beneficial for your overall health. And if you are struggling, maybe it could be improving there if you've tried other things. Yeah,
and you could probably do out of these 9, you could probably do half of them every day.
Oh, easily.
Like slow breathing and meditation.
Yeah.
Omega-3s.
Yep.
Gut stuff.
Yeah. Some probiotics.
Singing.
Yep.
Massage, exercise, laughing.
Yep.
This is real simple stuff.
Yeah.
And all peer-reviewed.
Yep.
Nice, eh?
Yeah.
Anything else on vagus nerve you want to talk about?
Oh, we could go on for hours.
Oh, it's okay, good, but...
Yeah, it's lunchtime now.
Sort of running out of time. Now we've got to get our vagus nerve working to digest.
That's
it's got to
right.
be afferent.
That's right. Efferent. Yep.
Efferent and afferent. God, I remember that's from 1995 when I was learning about nerves. All right, well, I think that's all we've got time for.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, see you guys.
See ya.